Taste is the price of admission. If we don't taste great, we don't even get in the door. But once we get in the door and you taste it and you say, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is the best truffle I've ever had, now I can tell you, oh, by the way, don't throw that wrapper in the trash because it's actually backyard compostable. And that chocolate came from a farm practicing dynamic agroforestry, and it's organic, and it's non-GMO.
Keith Bearden is the head behind Alter Eco, the organic chocolate that regenerates ecosystems with unique farming techniques, empowering farmers while tackling climate change.
We had a farmer in Ecuador that actually said that the yield off of the remaining cacao plants had improved by as much as 30 to 35%. It's really a jungle because cacao plants grow best in the jungle. So we help the farmers by giving them coconut tree seedlings or plantain tree seedlings. We help them plant with avocados or lime trees or passion fruit vines, and all of that coexists.
We dive into what it's like to thrive during a cacao crisis, what it means to be 100% organic and carbon neutral, beating most companies by over a decade and a half.
The Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, I mean, they're paying attention. They read the ingredients. My marketing team tells me all the time, we have to show our receipts. We do. I mean, we're very transparent about our supply chain. We're very transparent about our packaging choices.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today's guest is Keith Bearden, CEO of Alter Eco, the brand that's on a mission to restore the planet through chocolate. From soil to shelf, Alter Eco has helped transition hundreds of farmers to regenerative agriculture and reinvented what a snack can stand for. From premium chocolate to regenerative farms and compostable wrappers, he's proving that profit and purpose can come in the same package. Keith, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So I do want to dive into your experience prior to Alter Eco, actually. You know, you have a pretty impressive resume from ranging from different areas to tech to CPG. And I wanted to ask, what drew you to Alter Eco and how do you implement the experience that you've accumulated over the years into Alter Eco?
Well, I've been in food and beverage for almost 30 years now. Didn't really start out with the intention of going into that arena, but I ran a consulting company in the Pacific Northwest up in Portland, Oregon, and there's a lot of food and beverage companies in that area. And so a lot of my clients wound up being food and beverage, and a lot of them were focused on organics or healthier, better for you products. And so I kind of got drawn to that sector. And about 7 years ago or so, I met a group out in San Francisco that was a private equity group that actually owned Alter Eco. And I started doing some advisory work for them. And in 2021, they asked me to join the board of Alter Eco. And I had known about the brand, but really got to actually become very intimate with the brand and understand the brand value, the brand equity that it has, as well as how the brand really stands for something other than just a product and profit. It really has three core principles of restoring ecosystems, improving livelihoods, and reducing waste. And it hasn't deviated from those core principles since the beginning, since it was founded in 2004.
I love it. You know, interestingly enough, I'm also based in Portland, Oregon right now.
Okay.
And you're right. You know, there's a lot of brands that come out of here that are CPG focused, and I do love it. And you did mention that you've had 30 years in CPG. What was that experience like? And did you spend the majority of your time here in Portland, Oregon?
I was in Portland for only about 7 or 8 of those years, and one of a well-known Oregon company called Yogi Tea offered me the position to run their international operations. And so I sold my consulting company and actually moved to Hamburg, Germany, and ran the international operation for Yogi Tea for about 7 years. And then when I came back to the U.S., I just stayed in the food and beverage space. And actually, I've run everything from ingredient companies to contract manufacturing companies to other consumer packaged goods companies.
Wow. What was the main difference between the United States and Germany in terms of running operations and behind the scenes?
European regulations are a little tougher. Organic certification's a little more stringent. And, it's funny, the European Union is not really the European Union when it comes to regulations because you'd have ingredients that would be legal in Germany, but not legal in France or not legal in Denmark. You had different organic certifiers in the UK and France and Germany. So it was a lot of extra hoops to jump through to be an organic or a non-GMO type of company. And you've got all the language issues. We had 26 different languages scattered across our packaging.
Wow. And that is surprising that, you would think that being the European Union, that they would have, more standardized packaging all across the board.
Yeah. No, it was very different. And, so it took a little bit of extra work on the sourcing side, obviously extra work on the packaging side, because and there's certain language clusters, we called them, that you could put together. You could have one package that maybe was English on the front, but had all your ingredients in Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese on the side, because those three countries all kind of cooperate together in distribution. But Germany's such a big market, France is such a big market, they kinda want their own package, so everything's in French, everything's in German. You get to Scandinavia, you can have a language cluster there with all the different languages, but it takes a lot of, management to make sure that you're translating everything properly too.
Oh yeah, it definitely sounds like, extra steps, and especially when compared to the United States where, predominantly it's in English.
Yep.
Um, what was the biggest difference aside from the language or from the ingredients that you found between Germany and the United States?
I think consumers are more aware in Europe in general of healthier, better for you products. Um, they've eliminated things like red dye, and yellow dye number 5, and those have been illegal for decades in Europe, and we're now just grappling with some of those types of issues. Artificial ingredients in Europe really are frowned upon, and the consumers shop more often, that I mean, personally, when we lived in Belgium for 5 years previously, and we lived in Germany for almost 7, and my wife would shop almost every day. It's more of a local community type thing, but you expect fresher, healthier, better for you foods.
No, absolutely, and I I do agree with you on the point that, people are becoming more conscious. I'm hearing a lot about Red 40 and the different kinds of types of dyes and how it's incredibly unhealthy for you. It's been linked to cancer and all these, horrible things. I do want to ask, you stepped into Alter Eco with a mission. You really want to bring the food from the soil to the shelf in a way that actually regenerates. How do you maintain that mission and um, especially at scale?
It's been challenging. The more we grow, the more challenging it becomes, and we've grown tremendously over the past couple years. We work directly with our farmers, and I wouldn't dare tell you that every cacao bean that we use to source to make Alter Eco comes from a regenerative farm, but we're helping those farmers make that transition. We publish a report every year called our Regen Report. And in 2024, we had about 75% of our raw materials came from regenerative farms.
Wow, that's incredible.
And we're continuing to improve that every year, and we're helping those farmers make that transition. It's challenging from a perspective of just pricing though too. The cacao market in general has gone crazy in terms of pricing. Coffee's the same way. And then tariffs come along and they make it even worse, and complicate things even more. But I think the farmers understand the value associated with having that relationship. We have direct relationships with the farmers and the co-ops. We buy predominantly from Ecuador, Dominican Republic, and Peru, and I travel there. I visit with the farmers. We talk about our forecasts and how they're helping to support our growth initiatives. So
I love that. Yeah, you guys have a direct relationship and a direct connection to the farmers. I do want to ask how do you help transition them to be more regenerative? In what ways?
Well, it's interesting because regenerative agriculture can be defined a lot of different ways. And if you're a crop farmer, which is an annual crop, let's say wheat or ginger or whatever, once you harvest your crop, regenerative agriculture is typically putting a cover crop back down to regenerate the soil through either nitrogen or some type of organic matter that's going to help improve the soil health. With cacao beans a cacao plant grows for 50, 60, 70 years. So what we do is the way we define regenerative farming is really agroforestry. And you see the picture behind me here. It's really a jungle because cacao plants grow best in the jungle. So we help the farmers by giving them coconut tree seedlings or plantain tree seedlings. We help them plant with avocados or lime trees or passion fruit vines. And all of that coexists as opposed to just having rows and rows of cacao plants that are monocrop culture. That dynamic agroforestry does a number of things for the farmer. It provides them multiple revenue streams, hence helping them improve their livelihoods because they can sell the plantains and the coconuts and the passion fruits. But the taller trees provide shade for the cacao plants in times of drought. Their deeper roots help bring up more groundwater in times of drought. In times of extreme rain, they also help shelter the cacao plants. And then the leaves and the organic matter that fall and just decompose into the soil improve the soil health. So it's a whole ecosystem, and we really refer to it as dynamic agroforestry.
I love it. I do find it so interesting that, this diverse, excuse me, this diverse, plants that working together creates a much better product working instead of, what we're typically used to as a monocrop, as you stated. Are there any other misconceptions that people might have when looking at a monocrop versus, this diversification, this jungle?
Well, yeah, I mean, a monocrop culture, which is the way cacao has been grown for decades, you have a yield, you have an expectation of how many cacao pods you're going to get every year. And then if you go through and say, "Oh, well, you're better off if you have some plantain trees in here," that means you're going to have to remove some cacao plants. You're going to have to, have a more variegated structure. And so the farmer's revenue is actually gonna go down for the first few years because they're not gonna have as much yield of cacao plants because 'cause they're taking some out. But what we've been able to show is over that first 3 to 5 years, the yield from the remaining cacao plants improves, the likelihood of disease goes down, and those other plants start to produce, thereby raising their overall revenue. But it takes some time to make that transition. That's another thing we try to help the farmers with is by paying a premium on our products so that they can actually make that transition to the agroforestry model.
I love that you guys are taking an investor approach into this, and it's kind of counterintuitive. You would think that like, a monocrop would perform better, but this actual ecosystem and coexisting of plants actually creates, much better products, which I think is amazing.
We had a farmer in Ecuador that actually said that the yield off of the remaining cacao plants had improved by as much as 30 to 35%.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the pods get bigger. You have roughly the same number of pods, but they get bigger, and the beans get bigger, and so therefore the cacao nibs are bigger inside of them, and that's what they make their money on.
I love it. You guys are really taking this regenerative approach, and it really shows in your guys' packaging. And I do want to talk about how it affects the consumers. Consumers are becoming more conscious, as you had mentioned. And how do you maintain alter eco relevant and while being genuine to the mission that you guys have?
Well, I think you have to tell the story, but you don't really get to tell the story until the consumer gives you permission. My chief marketing officer, she'll tell me, we don't buy chocolate because it came from a regenerative farm, or we don't buy chocolate because the packaging on the truffle is backyard compostable. I buy chocolate because it's an indulgent. It's something that I want to treat myself. But once I buy it and I taste it and I think, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Now, as a consumer, I give you permission to tell me all the other good things that you're doing. And so we talk about taste a lot. And I tell my team, taste is the price of admission. If we don't taste great, we don't even get in the door. But once we get in the door and you taste it and you say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is the best truffle I've ever had. Now I can tell you, oh, by the way, don't throw that wrapper in the trash because it's actually backyard compostable. And that chocolate came from a farm practicing dynamic agroforestry. And it's organic and it's non-GMO and it is, and we're B Corp certified and we're carbon neutral. So, I mean, we do all the right things, but I gotta sell you on the taste because that's why you buy chocolate.
Absolutely, taste comes first, and especially when it comes to the better for you category. And I also do love that not only are you guys focusing on taste first, where you guys are also compounding, you know, compostable wrappers, be certified, all these positive things. And it just makes for a guilty free, indulgent, like, hey, I'm buying this. Not only does it taste good and I'm helping the environment.
We say we're the cleanest, greenest, tastiest snacks on earth.
I love it. I love it. Very catchy. And it shows on your packaging too. I do want to take a moment to talk about it. I love the artistic style, the direction, and it really shows. It really shows that you guys are the greenest and the cleanest.
Yeah, we've had some, packaging's interesting. I mean, all of our packaging is recyclable on our chocolate. On our granola line, we actually have a line of granola, and we use post-consumer recycled plastic in our granola bags because we don't want to introduce new virgin plastics into the marketplace. We haven't found a compostable package yet that's gives us the shelf life that we're looking for and the product integrity. We don't sweeten with our granola is not sweetened with sugar, it's sweetened with fruit. And so we sweeten with dates and monk fruit. And fruits have a tendency to go rancid much quicker than pure cane sugar would. And so that product integrity is really important in the packaging. So we opted to use post-consumer recycled packaging. But we did a new product this year, actually for Whole Foods. It was exclusive to Whole Foods, called an advent calendar. And we wanted to have the least amount of packaging, but still have a beautiful product. And we went through a lot of trials and tribulations of making sure that the chocolates would actually stay in the little square that they were supposed to be in when you opened it. And we had to increase the amount of packaging to make that work. So while we started out with a very eco-friendly approach, we wound up having to put more packaging in just to make the product stay together.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very delicate balancing act where you don't want to overpackage, but you also want to package just enough that the product maintains integrity.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. It was it was an interesting test. We tried with the minimal packaging and we shipped them, and I took them and threw them around the room, and, I picked them up and all the chocolate was on one side of the package. I'm like, "Oh no, that's not gonna work."
So I do want to dive into, growing and sustainability. You support hundreds of farmers and transitioning them into regenerative practices. Was there a twist or a challenge that maybe you didn't expect when it came to aiding these farmers?
Well, I don't think anybody expected cacao prices to go where they did. When I took over the company in 2023, cacao prices were roughly about $3,500 a metric ton.
I heard
In
about that.
A in April of 2024, they went to over $12,000 a metric ton, so up almost 4 times, 3.5 times, and nobody expected that. And so then working with the farmers, there was a challenge to even most of our farmers are committed in the way that they love the fact that they sell to Alter Eco, and they love the fact that they're organic. But we've had some farmers say, well, if I can sell my beans on the open market for $10,000 or $12,000 a ton, why do I need to go through the certification process to stay organic and to stay fair trade? Because that takes effort and that takes money. They have to pay for those certifications. And so that's been a kind of an interesting challenge over the last 18 months or so because cacao prices have been so high.
Absolutely. And y- I do find it interesting that during these times, you're from the farmer's perspective, these certifications are almost counterintuitive where you're almost shooting yourself in the foot trying to maintain these certifications, and the path of least resistance is to just put it on the market and
Yep.
completely disregard the certifications in the first place.
Well, absolutely. And, not only is it difficult to maintain them, it's expensive. But the interesting thing is, in Latin America especially, most of the farms are smallholder farmers. I mean, we're talking 10, 15, 20 acre farms. We're not talking thousands of acres. These farmers don't have the money to use pesticides and herbicides anyway. And so their product is organic by nature, but yet they still have to go through that certification process. Mm. So,
That's no, yeah, that almost feels like a slap to the face that, these farmers, they can't even afford, the pesticides and all these different types of chemicals, and they're still almost coerced to having these certifications.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I get the governing bodies, but I think that and that, that certification seal, the USDA organic certification seal on a product gives the consumer trust in that that product has come through a supply chain that's not contaminated. That's great. But there needs to be harmonization across some of these certifying bodies so that you don't have to go get fair trade and organic and non-GMO and regenerative organic and. We're putting too much burden on the farmers.
Definitely, and especially since they're all separated and, the prices, they just accumulate.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So you joined Alter Eco at, perfect timing. The cacao market just completely exploded and hit the fan. How did you manage that, and what have you done since then?
Well, everybody in the chocolate industries had to take price increases. And we worked with our farmers and our producers in Switzerland to try to mitigate that as much as we could. Um, but everybody's had to take price. I mean, I had I was talking to one of the largest chocolate producers in the world, and they said, the consumer's just going to have to get used to the fact that a premium chocolate bar is going to cost $10. When they used to pay $3.50 or $4 for it. They're just going to have to get used to the fact it's not going back. I will say cacao prices have eased a bit, but they're still 2 to 3 times what they were, 2 years ago.
Wow.
So
And I did hear that the reason for this is because of disease. Is that
that's been a lot of it. It's yield. The yields are down. So 60% of the world's cacao actually comes from Western Africa,
Mhm.
Ivory Coast, Ghana, those regions. And they're mostly monocrop cultured. They're mostly just huge plantations with rows and rows and rows of cacao plants. And so over the last 10, 15 years with climate change, they've had extreme drought in some cases, and then in some cases they've had extreme rain and then flooding and disease sets in when those kinds of shifts take place. And so in 2023, the harvest in 2023 from the Western Cape of Africa was down 30%.
she
Well, given that they produce over 60% of the world's supply, that means the world was down almost 20%.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's shot prices up. And then when prices started going up like that, given that cacao is a commodity traded on the two main commodity exchanges in London and New York, that's when speculators jumped in
Mm.
and traders jumped in and started buying futures. And that drove the prices up even higher.
Wow. I do find it interesting that, the shortage of chocolate just presented so many different issues. And with premium ingredients like these, because chocolate is a commodity first, it's an indulgent first. You know, prices are expected to increase as well. What have been some of the reactions that you've had from customers?
Fortunately, like I said earlier, Alter Eco has a lot of brand equity
Mhm.
and people trust the brand. And so as we've raised prices, we really haven't seen much pushback from the consumers, um, and or the retailers for that matter. And
Mhm.
it helps because the whole industry took price. Even Hershey's and Nestle and Mars and all the conventional chocolates, they took a lot of price increase. That helps, but, you would think that if everybody's taking price, as a consumer, I might down trade. Instead of buying a premium bar like Alter Eco, I might down trade and buy a conventional bar. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. Our growth in 2024 was over 20%, and the market only grew at about 6%. And this year to date, we're up over 17%, and the market's still at about 5 to 6% growth.
That's incredible. So despite the challenges, despite the circumstances, you guys grew by 20%.
Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. We
I
have
owe that
had
I owe that to my marketing and PR team. They do a great job.
love to see it. No, yeah, I mean, I saw your guys' Instagram and they're doing a really great job over there.
Thank you.
We have had a couple guests on the show before, who are in the chocolate space as well, and they've had to go through these hoops and hurdles as well, and have seen these kinds of prices. So I do find it incredible that you guys have been able to maintain your consumer base and expand as well.
Yeah, no, we've been very fortunate. We're growing quite rapidly, and 2026 looks even brighter. I mean, we've gotten some new listings. I can't share them yet, but you'll start to see us in places that you have never seen Alter Eco before.
Great. I do want to dive into that actually. Where do you see Alter Eco, 3 to 5 years from now?
But I mean, I think the merger between organic, better for you, healthier products and the conventional retailers has been taking place for the last 10 years. Walmart's the number one seller of organic produce in the world. And so I see Alter Eco making significant inroads into those conventional retailers. We're in a number of conventional retailers already, but it's not as broad spread and nationwide as it will be over the next 2 to 3 years.
No, absolutely, and especially since consumers are becoming more conscious and more aware of, you know, and selective of what they want to put into their body. I think brands such as yourself positioning yourself as better for you and a luxury bar is incredibly beneficial.
Well, in your generation specifically, I mean, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, I mean, they're paying attention. They read the ingredients. My marketing team tells me all the time, we have to show our receipts, and we do. I mean, we're very transparent about our supply chain. We're very transparent about our packaging choices. And so we are bringing our products to those consumers that are becoming the consumers of the future.
Yeah, and I that's why I really think, your guys' positioning has been so important and so beneficial because from the get-go, you guys have been transparent, you know,
Mhm.
have tried to attain, B corporation status and are really on top of all these things that really resonates with my generation.
Yeah.
And you
We
guys
we've been doing it before it was cool. We were B Corp certified in 2009. We were climate neutral by 2010, and we've maintained that for 15 years.
now that investment has paid off.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the major differences between these kinds of brands, such as Alter Eco and a brand like Hershey's. With Hershey's, it's not transparent. It's very difficult to find information on, how do they source their ingredients and if
Yeah.
their sourcing methods are even ethical. So I think you guys are positioning yourselves incredibly well.
Thank you.
Well, Keith, this has been an incredible conversation, amazing insights, especially into the cacao business and how much turmoil you guys have faced. And despite that, you guys are on top. Where can people find you?
You can find us pretty much anywhere in the natural channel. We are in all Whole Foods, Sprouts, natural grocers. You can find us online at alterecofoods.com or on Amazon. And you can find us, like I said, in a number of conventional retailers, but more to come. More to come very soon.
Great. Can't wait to see it. Well, thank you for your time and have a good one.
Thank you.